We interrupt this crypto broadcast for an urgent message for U.S. citizens. Many of you are not aware of new crypto tax regulations that go into effect for 2025. And if you don't take action before this year is over, you may be subject to surprise taxes in the future. Wow. That's not good news. Fortunately, our favorite crypto CPA, Clinton Donnelly, is on hand to explain everything you need to know and what you need to do right away to protect yourself. Taxes ain't fun, but it's part of life. And as long as we're living and you're living, let's do life together on our episode number 756 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Welcome to all of our friends around the world, whether you are a U.S. citizen or a citizen of elsewhere, you are a citizen of the Republic of Bad Cryptopia. We have issued you an imaginary passport, and we're glad that you're here. Well, Travis,
Absolutely, you're our favorite people that are here. The ones that aren't here, didn't tune in, we don't like them as much. But if you're listening to this means that the universe is about to bless you with amazing prosperity and will help you save money on your taxes with crypto. So you are in the right place at the right time.
we really will. This is important, and I'm surprised how few people. I sent a message to a group of friends that guys that I'm connected with here in Puerto Rico, and they're like, "What? What is this? How come we didn't hear about this?" And your CPAs probably don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's the law, and so you're going to want to pay really close attention to what is said today. And the good news is Clinton is such a good guy. He is the leading crypto tax CPA as far as we're concerned. He has set up something that makes it really easy for you to do for free. So you're going to want to take advantage of it. Listen in. Let's get to the important stuff with our buddy Clinton Donnelly. Well, typically we wait until the beginning of the new year to have our annual guest on to talk about taxes and how it relates to crypto. But there's some really super important things that are happening in the United States that if you are in crypto, you need to know this because your accountant might not be telling you about it, and you need to know this before the year is out. So you're going to want to pay attention as we welcome back our friend to the show, Mr. Clinton Donnelly of CryptoTaxAudit.com. Clinton, sir, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here again, Joel and Travis.
Who doesn't like to talk to the tax man? So before we get into the super important things that people are going to need to know, actions they're going to need to take, you guys want to stick around. You're not going to want to miss this. I want to first talk about what Trump's win means to the U.S., to tax law, to the future of IRS, the tax code. I just want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and just brain dump what's going on up there because.
And please gloat as much as possible.
Oh, yes.
Joel really likes that. He's running laps around liberals right now. So if you could gloat as much as possible and poke them, that'd be good. They love that.
If you can make somebody cry, that's on the left here, you get extra points.
Hey, I can say this about, Trump said a lot of things when he was running for president. All right. And of course, politicians will say anything. So we have to realize that. And it's one thing for him to say it. It's another thing for him to meet the hard realities of life. Let's dissect them. One of the things that came out after he was elected was a proposal to completely do away with taxes altogether, do away with income tax altogether. I don't think this is going to happen. And this is the key thing is Trump has made it very clear that the deficit is a really, really bad problem and he wants to fix it. So there's two sides of fixing that. One is slashing expense. We got Doge and we got, big focus on that. The other one is you want to increase your income. The IRS has, with very little additional staff, moved from bringing in $3.5 trillion back in a year in year 2000 to bringing in $5.1 trillion this past year. So that's the income side. I mean, the IRS is the income side of the U.S. government, if you think about it as a business. So he's not going to slash that. And no matter what he says, he's not going to slash the tax structure. Now, he's not going to do away with it until we get down to a zero deficit. So there's my man, Trump. Second thing that's come out, there were a whole slew of proposals such as no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and a variety of the other ones. No tax on policemen and firemen, these kind of
No
things.
tax on hookers. I saw something about that.
Yeah, well,
Wait, that's always been no tax on hookers. Never mind.
it's only on reported income. So
OnlyFans is a whole new industry.
so let's break it down a little bit. First of all the U.S. taxpayers, about 165 million of them, 47% don't pay any tax at all. Okay, because they have a low amount of income, and what tax they would owe is removed by having what's called the child tax credit, earned income tax credit, these refundable credits, which give you money. It's a form of welfare, if you will. So the net result is, just under half the people don't pay any tax. So I would have to assume that waiters would fall into that category. Policemen and firemen would probably fall into that category. So that you could promise everything in the world, but they're probably honestly not really paying any tax at all. So that's kind of a hollow promise. Now, the next thing that's been proposed is this rumors flying out there. I think Trump said no tax on cryptocurrency. On one level, I'm pretty excited about that. But the other level is that will never happen. And because if you retain capital gains tax on stocks, bonds, and real estate, but not on crypto, well, everybody's going to dump those other assets, causing a depression, and putting all their money into crypto so they won't get taxed. So that just isn't going to happen. I mean, there's too many power brokers to keep that from happening. I think I anticipate now there was a major tax law change in 2017. This was it's called the Tax Act, the Tax Cuts and Job Act, something like that. But these, because of the way Congress budgets, they're set to expire in the year 2026, beginning of 2026. So these were Trump's tax cuts. Biden Harris basically said they were not going to renew them. And of course, Trump says he will. Now, I think he's in that plan was keeping the corporate tax. He had brought it down to 21%. He's also talking about lowering it even further. I could believe that. It just increases our global competitiveness. The second thing was he increased the standard deduction from roughly $6,000 to what it is now. I think it's about $14,500. So he brought that up. I expect that Trump to make a proposal to shift the tax brackets. Because the first tax bracket is like 10%, and it kicks in once you're making roughly $30,000, I believe. And then it goes 12%, and it works its way up. So by the time you're making 100,000, it's 22%, and it goes up a little bit from there. I expect him to shift all those tax brackets. I wouldn't be surprised if he taxes no income until you hit $100,000. All right. Now think about it. Those people making less than 100,000 are in that 47%. They're not paying any tax anyhow. All right. So if you shift it up, what this does is those people will have no federal taxes withheld from their paycheck. All right. So this affects people right away. So it makes no sense for the government to take money from them and then give it back to them as a credit, a year later. A better way to do that is just do away with those credits and just have no taxes under, say, 100,000.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, because think of how that will spur the economy. It would help the economy grow in a lot of ways, and it would solidify his future voting base, because in theory, you got all these people over here like, oh, Trump's going to only tax rich, and then he comes in and says, if you make less than this, no taxes, which in reality, they're already not getting taxed that much anyway. Dude, that is a nice little sleight of hand. That's a really good sort of visual. It's a nice vanity metric kind of.
Well, you're absolutely right. And as Trump said, you're going to feel it right away. This way you would. So, yeah, I expect something like that, a little much more dramatic in that area. And you're right, it has a significant political benefits. So, in terms of a lot of now there, right now, Elon Musk is saying he's going to audit the IRS and he's going to get rid of a bunch of people, stuff like that. Well, hey, there is some. The IRS has been really hammered down on staffing for the last 14 years, and there's not a lot of fat there. There are a lot of old people because they're waiting to retire. I think there's a management layer that could get rid of people there, but on the whole, the IRS is doing a good job from a governmental point of view. Like I said, they've increased income from 3.5 trillion to 5.1 trillion without doing a whole lot of extra work. Uh, so I think you can get rid of some fat, but I don't think he's going to get rid of auditors. I don't think they're going to do anything which would reduce the ability of the U.S. government to make more than 5.1 trillion in taxes. So I don't think Elon's going to cut into that.
Now, does
That
that,
makes
if we
sad.
think about that with tariffs, right? He's talked a lot about, yesterday was just such a hilarious thing. Yesterday, the day before, whenever Trump was talking to Justin Trudeau, and he was like, what, you're screwing us out of $100 billion a year? What if that's not good enough? Then we'll just make you the 51st state. Like, what a hilarious troll. Like that just, that's just but these tariffs, I mean, in a lot of ways, a lot of these places have been able to cut their costs, build up their manufacturing, send it to us for super cheap, and then it's a good old boy network that, oh well, we're not gonna give you any tariffs or tax you extra on that. So maybe how does that you think that changes the narrative a bit?
Well, hey, the U.S. government had a laissez-faire way of operating until the 1920, and they operated off fees and off tariffs. So they're heavily on tariffs and also on fees for people who got benefits from the government. And that proved to be an inadequate income source for the government as they hit World War One. And that's why you had the imposition of the income tax in
Well, was
1916.
that because the Federal Reserve Bank and the whole you're the creature from Jekyll Island and those bankers creating the Federal Reserve Bank and the IRS? I mean, is that just the narrative that happened then?
Well, I mean, there's certainly a dimension that they needed more money, but
Yeah.
also there was a philosophical shift that the feeling was philosophically in the society that the government had an obligation to provide some sort of safety net for the people who weren't as able to take care of things. Before the government didn't handle that, right? So that in order to do that, they felt there had to be a certain level of income shifting from the haves to the have-nots. And that's a progressive income tax. It's a bit of, providing welfare, providing a type of social security fabric, and that's grown over the years. Republicans and Democrats have all bought off on that supposition. Now, I think where we're at now is like now we see Social Security, Medicare being a vehicle to fund excessive immigration and bringing in, whatever you want to call illegal immigrants, terrorists, whatever. It's feeding all that. So I think that's definitely a level of abuse. I mean, I was talking to my brother, who's a Democrat, worked for the Army for a long time, retired, and he said, "Yeah, you could really slash a lot out of the Army." So I would never have believed he would have said it, but yeah, I think definitely that's good.
That's 9/11. It's like 700 billion dollars a year goes to the Department of Defense. Like, and that stuff's never been audited. So you're like, well, where's all that money go? It's crazy.
Exactly, exactly. So, hey, I think the bottom line is, I mean, if you want to pay off your debt, everybody knows how to pay off their debt. And the same thing's true for the U.S. government, and Trump knows this. You got to slash your expenses, you got to increase your income. And that's in the U.S., and the IRS is the income side. Now, when it comes to tariffs, one of the problems with tariffs is that it's an inconsistent income stream. Okay, you can't budget on tariffs because if tariffs are applied as a form of punishment for for some country being a bad neighbor, once they become a good neighbor, then you get no more tariff income. So it's hard to budget and run a country on tariffs.
What about, so many people are just tired of the tax code being so bloated, and for years, there's been this notion of going to a one-page tax code, right? Just on a consumption tax. You buy it, you use it, you pay tax on it, which how does that balance? Does it work in reality?
We have a flat tax already built into the US tax code. It's called the alternative minimum tax, and it's 28%. So if you want a flat tax, go 28%. And that's what the purpose of the alternative minimum tax was, for those people that, like rich people that are really sophisticated with depreciation and micro captive insurance and all these other gimmicks, that this is a second way of calculating your taxes, which threw out all those benefits and hit you with a flat 28%. So that is something that's hard for people to get. We already have a flat tax. And we have a progressive tax too, which means the wealthier people are taxed more. So if you go to a flat tax, that actually is a better deal for wealthier people than it is for the lower income people. And as we already described, wouldn't it be better if we just simply didn't tax anybody who had an annual income under 100,000? So I think that's a better launching pad for a tax regime.
Well, you could still exclude, you could still have those exclusions in there and say, hey, if you're under 100,000, you don't even pay the consumption tax, or you get, a refund on it or something. I just think the tax code is so bloated that to navigate it for most ordinary people, I mean, even somebody with a simple, tax return, they got to go to H&R Block or something to, have somebody churn and burn out this return for them. It shouldn't
Well,
be that complex.
Good, correct. And it is complex, and it's really not the IRS's fault. It's Congress's fault. They wrote the laws, okay? And when this past year, the IRS began a new free filing system of their own called, I think it's called e-file or something creative like that. And it's online, it's free, and the IRS wrote it. They've also have now contacted most of the 50 states have all agreed to participate in this free filing program. Now, the free filing program doesn't do sophisticated things, all right? So if you have like crypto taxes, you're a little bit too sophisticated for these free filing. But we talked about like the 50% of the population that's, doesn't make a lot of money. This is a free way for them to get their taxes done for them. Organizations like Liberty Tax and H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, they charge really high amounts, relatively speaking, for very simple tax returns on the low income, because the low income people know they got to file a tax return to get the tax credits. All right. So it's created this whole tax credit regime has created this marketplace that is very abusive and punishing to the low income people. What if you simply, went on to the IRS's free filing site, typed in your social security number, it pulled down what your W-2 was, asked you if you made any other income. If you're under 100,000, it's like no tax. You're done. You don't have to worry about how much my mortgage payment interest was, or how much my property tax was. It's like, you don't have that much income, we don't worry about it. So I think that's a direction that the IRS is moving towards. Here, in Europe, a lot of the countries, you don't file a tax return. Your country sends you a statement saying this is how much you owe, and if it's wrong, tell us. All right, that works again for the lower income people, and it just makes it easier on that 50% that, as you said, would complain.
That it is interesting, because if they went to that sort of a thing, it always seems like, well, like we've always should have had a consumption tax. Really, it seems like that would have made the most sense for the longest time. Like, but I guess maybe gets in a problem where like, oh, I ain't gonna buy shit. I'm just gonna. So in your sort of expertise, does just having a consumption tax, does that hurt the economy because people are less willing to pay those extra prices, especially with inflation kind of going through the roof?
Well, so at the national level, we tax it on income. At the state level, depending upon the state, there's a tax on the income. Plus, there may be a consumption tax in the form of a sales tax, right? And then at the town level, they tax people based on property tax, all right, which is basically a wealth tax, I'd call it. Now, consumption tax is not a progressive tax. It's kind of because the wealthier you are, you're not spending necessarily as much money as you're making in, right? You're saving, right? So your it trails off to the benefit of the wealthier people, a consumption tax.
There are some important things that are happening that all crypto holders, investors, traders need to know about. And I think I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. There's a couple parts to this. So why don't you go ahead and elaborate, and we could talk about how you're going to help people get to the solution that they need.
Okay. The IRS, well, Congress came out with some in 2021, they approved the taxation of cryptocurrencies, they mandated the reporting back to the IRS from like Coinbase, Kraken, anyone who handles cryptocurrency. So it'd basically be the form of a 1099, and it's called the 1099 DA, digital asset. And that starts happening. You won't get it here in January, but for the following year, for the transactions you do in 2025. So that's a new development where the IRS is going to have much more insight into what you've been doing in the prior year. One of the subtleties that came out in the tax regulations, which is another 200 pages of regulation that got approved, finalized in September, is a radical change to how cryptocurrencies are taxed. When I say radical, it's retroactive, and it makes pretty much almost everybody who filed tax returns in the past years have incorrectly calculated their crypto gains based on the new formula. So this is significant. It's a reversal or a contradiction of their prior guidance that they'd given back in 2019. Here's what the issue is. Let me back around this way. Here's what you need to do. Everybody listening to this show, you need to sign up for a safe harbor allocation plan. I'll explain this in a second. You go to cryptotaxaudit.com/1099.
Nope. You go to badco.in/tax, because then you are helping us. You're supporting this show to get what you need through Clinton. And then you click at the top 1099 DA that you see right here.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So, and then you'll get this screen, and when you see at the bottom it says complete your allocation plan,
Yep.
You click on it, and what's going to happen is you're going to have a chance to do an electronic signature on an allocation plan. I'll explain that in a second. You will then get a copy of it emailed to you, and we'll keep one for our permanent records. Nothing goes to the IRS, but the IRS came out with a revenue procedure to help people who have been using the old guidance transition into the new way of doing things without being penalized. And the requirement begins with you adopting formally for your own books and records a allocation plan. And that's what this thing will do. So just do it. You have to do it according to the revenue procedure before December 31st, 2024. So you only have days left to do this.
So you guys hear this. That means when this episode releases, you got about 2 weeks. This is essential. Otherwise, if they don't do this, then retroactively, this could change the taxes you've paid on your crypto. Is that right, Clinton?
Absolutely. And you'll be exposed on audits.
And you're doing this for free, right? The allocation plan. This is a gift to the crypto community. Clinton does a great job. He's been our CPA for years, and on the show every year to tell us about the latest in the crypto tax world. Go to badco.in/tax, and once you're there, up at the top, find the link that says 1099 DA. Click on that, and then you'll see Clinton tell you more about it, and click the complete your allocation plan before December 31st, 2024, so you don't end up with a horrible crypto tax surprise for the following year.
I have a question for you around this. So when I sold my home, then I bought some Bitcoin and then some other tokens, and then I sold some Bitcoin, went into ICP because I like Internet Protocol. It's a great token. I'm like, dude, this is a great technology. And then the price goes from like $20 down to below $10. And so it's like, nah, it's a big loss. And so basically, since that loss occurred, I should just be able to write that off because it happened in this year, essentially.
Did you actually sell it?
Yeah,
Yep. That would be a loss for this year.
man.
Yep.
I'm gonna be able to move a loss forward where everybody else is gaining crypto. I was like, dude, ICP, the technology is amazing. That just shows how people are in the crypto space. They're like, dude, does it have is it a meme coin? Can I make 100x on it? I mean, oh, no, it's got cool technology and it does awesome shit. I'm not interested. Technology seems bearish.
Hey, it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody should sign an allocation plan. I'll explain it here in a second. And the website talks all about it because it's immensely tedious. But you need to sign an allocation plan, even if you haven't been filing your taxes, haven't been reporting your crypto income, or all of it. You need to sign this because without it, you're defenseless. All right. So we can defend you if you at least you've had that. Now, here's what's happening. Here's why this is the case. So Travis, when we did gain calculation, and if you used any of the online services, Token Tax, Coin Ledger, Coin Tracker, CoinTrack, Zen Ledger, they have certain default settings that they use. And these have to do with how they decide which coin is being sold when you sell one, right? So in other words, what you sold a coin like ICP, what did I pay for it? Let's say you bought ICP at, 20 different occasions. And now I sell a couple. All right. Which ones did I sell? That's the challenge that these softwares are trying to address. Now, there are two elements to that decision. One is, do I sell the first one I bought? Or do I sell the highest priced one? We call this HIFO, LIFO, FIFO. You've heard these
Whenever
terms.
you're trying to sell that, you just click, I want to sell some ICP. I'll sell some. So you don't actually determine which one gets sold. However, based on math and based on the blockchain, essentially one of those gets sold, but you can't determine which one's which, right?
Oh, exactly. It's very problematic. The second thing is it's called you have multiple wallets. So I said, which wallet do I sell from? Like, let's say I sold on Coinbase. Do I sell the ICP that's sitting in my Coinbase wallet, or do I sell for tax purposes, a coin that's maybe sitting over on my private ledger? Which one did I decide is being sold? In the past, you were allowed to choose whichever one you wanted. We call this a single wallet approach. And the IRS has gone to an approach where you have to be a by wallet approach, which means if I'm selling some Coinbase, the only coins I can say I sold are the ones that were in Coinbase. All right. So this has never been the default for any of the software analytical tools that are out there, so crypto tools. So that's why everybody's calculations are wrong. How big an issue is this? I have a client, we're defending him in an audit right now, but we switched the way he was audited, and it came out with a $1 million difference if you're doing it the way we did it according to the old guidance versus the new guidance. So this is very significant. With that type of difference, if the IRS audits you, say for your gains in 2020, without the safe harbor allocation plan, they're going to use the new method retroactively on your 2020 gains. You might have done a perfect job in reporting your gains based on the tax laws or the tax guidance at the time. But now with this new regulations, it's all off. You've underreported your income. Now you're exposed to penalties and interest, and it can get uglier from there. So this is why it's so important for everyone, whether you've been reporting or not, or whether you have a small holdings or large holdings, is simply to go do a safe harbor allocation plan. And then once you sign up, we also get your email address, and we'll tell you more things you need to do, like taking an inventory of your coins at the end of the year.
Yeah, let's talk
there's
about
several other
that.
things.
Let's go into that specifically, because you told me that on December 31st, I need to take a snapshot of all my inventory and where it lives, each wallet and what's there. So that sounds complicated, especially when you've got things spread out all over the place. So talk more about that.
Okay, so if you're using one of the gain calculation services, it has what it thinks is where the value of your unsold coins at that time. All right, this is electronically in their system, using the old methods. What the allocation plan does is it takes that unused cost basis and it maps it against the actual inventory of coins and tokens that you have at the end of the year. And that's why it's important. The second thing after signing the allocation plan is at the end of the year, December 31st, make a thorough inventory of all your coins. And you need to do this in a way that captures evidence proving it. So basically screenshots. We do a screenshot. You also want to capture that date and time stamp at the lower, whatever corner of your screen it's in. So we can prove that, yes, on December 31st, I had this many coins on Coinbase. Now, what are we looking for? Let's say on Coinbase, all I need to do is see the portfolio of all the different coins you have and the quantity of those coins. That's the only level of detail we need. Go to your ledger. Use your ledger software to tell the inventory of all the coins you have. It would be good if you could also capture the addresses that are used, but suffice it to say, don't burden yourself too much. At least prove the number of coins you have. So now we have a full inventory of your coins. You go to our website. There's a lot of questions that get raised about that, and we answer them on the website. But then what we do next year, once at our leisure, we then map the unused cost basis, map it to your existing coin inventory, and we basically establish the cost basis for the true inventory of coins you have. This is such a wonderful thing. I mean, because first of all, it protects you from the past. Plus, anybody who's ever had trading on exchanges that don't exist anymore, or they won't give you the records because you're a U.S. citizen and they won't deal with Americans, it basically creates a straight line across your account where you start afresh. And the IRS has said basically, if you do this, we will not go look at those old years calculations. So trust me, there's a world of hurt you can save yourself from by doing this process.
So
But
to be clear,
yeah.
Clinton, the allocation plan that we sent you guys, badco.in/tax, the 1099 DA, you can fill out that form for free. That's documentation. That's a record of what your intent is. If you want Clinton and his team to do, as he says, map the tokens to their value. Now you're going to need to be a client of his at Crypto Tax Audit. Using that same link is where you want to sign up, and many of you already have. And if you're not, this is the indicator that you're waiting for as a U.S. citizen to jump on this. If you are trading crypto, it's low cost and worth every penny. I get a report monthly via email that shows a number of factors because they look and they can see what the IRS is doing. So if my file gets opened, they're going to know it at Crypto Tax Audit 6 months before I'll ever get a letter from the IRS. And they tell me every month, you're good. There's no open files. And here's everything that the IRS is looking at or not looking at for you. So you guys want to sign up for the service. So not only do you get your allocation plan for your 1099 DA sorted through, but you have Clinton and his team looking out for you going forward.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
my commercial. That's my piece. And when you
job.
guys go through badco.in/tax, then you do support this podcast for bringing you this quality content.
So a couple of things that are coming up are the IRS has budgeted acquiring more auditors. So right now they have 8,000 auditors, and they're going to be bringing on board over the next 4 years another 29,000 auditors for a total of 37,000 auditors by 2029. So this is big because the IRS commissioner has said we're no longer going to focus on auditing people at the lower income brackets. We're going to focus on people that are in the higher income brackets, which I won't get into the details on it, but we talk about it on our website. But pretty much anybody who's done any significant amount of trading is going to fall into these brackets. So they're unleashing the hounds really to go on pretty much crypto people. He has identified crypto traders not reporting as the number one target that they have for increasing revenues to the government. So this is big. When they do come after you, they usually audit a year or two backwards. So this is going to be very significant for everyone to have defense. Now, the service that you mentioned is our IRS Guard Dog service, which is basically insurance for your tax return. At the low level, it's simply a monitoring of your IRS accounts. It's like a credit score you described. Every month, we'll send you a status of where you're at. We can tell you as much as 6 months in advance if the IRS is scheduled to audit one of your tax returns. And it really, really works. We can then see that. We've actually, for one client who hadn't been filing his returns at all. We saw that he hadn't reported it, and we helped him file 6 years of tax returns. He got current, and the audit disappeared. So we can really save you, because the last thing you want is your face on an auditor's dartboard. For more active traders, we have the higher end program, which is called a full protection, where you can pay monthly or annually, but a fixed amount. I think it's $349 a month at this point, and we will defend you for no additional charge if you get audited and all the way up through tax court. And we really are the best in the entire industry. We've had over 50 audit defenses of cryptocurrency. 40% of the time, we get refunds back for people, right? Because we calculate it better than the average person. We've had four, and this is significant. I don't think you're going to see anybody else who has this. We've had four audits that we've appealed them up to U.S. tax court, and we've won 3 of them. And the last one, we've 90% won it. This one was, they're looking for $2 million from this client. We challenged their gain calculation, and they're now recalculating. This is the 5th time they're recalculating it, and every time they screw up. So we find errors in that. But all that cost, which would have cost this person really, he'd be in the $150,000 to $200,000 of expense with having our forensic accountants do that analysis. But for him, it's only, the full price amount. He just continues to pay that, and he's protected. It's basically car insurance for your tax return. And with all these additional auditors, it makes sense if you're a big trader to get that protection.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So you're basically preemptive, get this thing set up so you can help yourself. It's really like crypto insurance kind of, to help save your ass in case shit goes down. So keep an eye on that. That sounds good. I want to throw this over to you around just now that the Trump administration has come in. You don't necessarily got to have your tax hat on for this, but I'm curious, what do you think's going to happen in this industry? They come in, they create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. More countries start creating Bitcoin reserves. More companies come in and start buying Bitcoin putting it on in their assets. What do you kind of see happening over these next 4 years based on all these potentialities?
Well, I think Bitcoin will not go to the moon. I think Bitcoin's going to go to Mars. Right. So I think I read it right. Up until now, the price of Bitcoin and to many extents the other altcoins has been affected by the intrinsic things like halving and the price of mining and that sort of stuff. I think now we're seeing a shift into a retail demand that is so significant. I see more and more companies saying they're going to buy $1 billion of Bitcoin. Everybody's saying they want to buy $1 billion of Bitcoin.
I want $1 billion of Bitcoin, you guys.
I just think there's going to be an immense amount of clawing for an asset. I think it's going to be an absolute scramble. And so the person that has the coins, I think it's true. I feel that $100,000 is going to be pretty much the baseline that we'll probably never revisit below 100,000 here. Once we pop through it, I don't think we'll ever go back. I think the demand.
What's your prediction for the top on this run and even the next? Let's look forward 4 more years when we're after a new presidential cycle and we've had the bear market. Where do you see it? And again, you are actually a financial advisor, but you can take your hat off to make this prediction.
Well, I think it's come very clear that Bitcoin itself stands head and shoulders above all the other altcoins. They're fine investments, but Bitcoin is really a strategic asset. I think most people I know that my clients that hold Bitcoin don't plan on selling it. So, or they sell only a small portion of it each year. I believe that, the main thinking has been that after, say, 6 months after the bull market takes off, which would put this into April, that we might see the peak for the value of Bitcoin. There might be a peak there, but I don't think it's going to go down too much from then. I think the strategic reserve demand by the U.S. and other countries and the state of Florida and other small countries or companies, it's just going to be an incessant demand. And I just think that it will just never revisit. I think we're going to
Lots
see.
of words to get to a number, Clinton. What are you going to call it?
I'm
Come
going
on.
to go with Michael Saylor saying it's going to hit 180,000. It'll drop back to 140, but that's as low as it's going to go.
Hmm. Okay.
A pretty good number.
I
And
think that's
the charts would show that. Now, what do you think about the cycle? Because it seems like now the cycle is going to shift. It probably won't do that 4 year, 500 days before the halving, and then the halving, and then the whole thing that it's always. It almost seems like with the strategic Bitcoin reserves popping up for these different countries and different companies holding the asset, it seems like it might the bull run might change. We might be in like a some people are like, "Oh, this is going to be a 10-year bull run." I'm like, come on, But it's just interesting to kind of think about because I thought that was going to be the case last cycle. I was like, dude, with all these people coming in and all this stuff happening, we're not going to see a bear market nope, saw a bear market just like always. And so, do we think we're going to see that same cycle, or is it going to maybe shift a bit?
Well, I think we're having, much greater demand than before at a much lower supply. But I think the big factor that hits the price of Bitcoin is going to be the effectiveness of the Trump administration at lowering the deficit. If they can genuinely lower the deficit, what is it, like 36 trillion right now? Once people see that deficit coming down, let's say it hits only 30,000, there's 30 trillion of deficit. Once they see that, then there's going to be much higher valuation of the US dollar. The US dollar itself is going to get significantly stronger against all the other major currencies that are still heavily laden in debt. And that will also affect the price of Bitcoin because the price of Bitcoin would not continue to go up that way because the dollar, the denominator is getting higher. So I think from a dollar point of view, I think we might see it plateau some only because the dollar itself is strengthening against other currencies, the euro, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar. I think it's still going to be going, in banana zone. But
Well,
that would
there
take
you
a couple
go.
years.
That is the latest updates from our crypto tax expert, Clinton Donnelly. You guys want to go to badco.in/tax and get signed up and take care of your 1099 DA before December 31st and work with Clinton and his team on getting your taxes done. And I'm sure we'll have you back probably sooner or later. Usually we don't do this until, before, taxes are due April 15th-ish, but this is important enough that every U.S. citizen needs to be aware of what they've got to file
We
here.
might have him back
year's
again,
up.
like in March or something. Dude,
Yeah.
you're pretty close to becoming the #1 guest on the show. Like, I think this is number 5 for you. So, like, you've now tied John McAfee, and there's only one guy who's kind of a douche, but he's up there. We don't mention his name, Ronnie Moas.
Ronnie
but
Moss.
he's
I want to talk to Ronnie again. I do.
Well, I think March might be a good time because I think we're going to see a whole slew of stuff come from the Biden administration.
Who?
And
Whose
from the
administration?
Trump administration.
Bite your tongue, good sir.
I want you to know I'm practicing my dance.
Do your dance.
Yeah. Go, baby, go.
All right, man.
Baby.
Let's hope it's great for everybody. Thanks, Clint. We'll talk to you soon. Trav, had you heard about this at all before? Did you know?
I hadn't heard about it. And if you go to what is it, badco.in/tax,
Mm-hmm.
you go to the page and there's a bunch of information on the page. It doesn't specifically talk about the snapshot, but what you do need to do is go ahead and talk to an expert and contact them, and that'll take you right exactly to where you need to go. Probably a good idea to get set up and rolling on this because this will save you a lot of money ongoing. I think we've had him on the show 5
I
years
don't
in a
know.
row.
We need to go and take a look back. In fact, I'll just do a search here on the Bad Crypto website for Donnelly, and we'll see how many. Let's see, March 2023. We've got February 2024. We've got February 2021. So I'm assuming 2022. Yep, 2022 is going to pop up. That's 4. 2020. That's 5. And so
Okay.
this was number 6 for Clinton. And usually we have him on, in the late winter, early spring before taxes are due. And he'll be back again to talk about, especially after the Trump administration comes in and maybe they start making changes. I bet they do before taxes are due that you'll need to know for next year. But so this was number 6 for him.
Yeah, he does have a weekly podcast I just saw on the bottom of his website.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you can tune in if you want to be like excited with tax shit every week. Like, man, like, yeah.
Well,
Can't wait
the thing to get excited about is he helps save you money and helps protect
Yeah.
your the money that you're bringing in. Like if you are not yet subscribed to Crypto Tax Audit, I love it. Every month I get the email and the email tells me all of these key indicators. And the one that is most important to me is, are there any files that has my file been opened by the IRS to look at it? And because you won't know if your file is being looked at till 6 months, you won't get a letter till 6 months after your file's being looked at. Don't you want to know right away? Just for that alone, it's worth it because it tells me if my file has been opened for any reason or not. And it always comes back no. And I'm like, phew, that's great. Don't, I mean,
There you
not
go.
that I'm
6
afraid of
months
an
a
audit.
few.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants an audit though. And so it's worth it. Badco.in/tax. When you go through that link, there might be some additional special offer for listeners of the show. There might not, but either way, you're supporting Bad Crypto Podcast and us bringing this delightful content that could save you gajillions your way.
How nice. Gajillions is an awful lot. I don't know how many zeros that is, but it is more than us two zeros that are here talking to you.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're the ZK zeros with lots of snark. So you know.
all the snark. Trev, you got anything else you want to talk about today?
I do not. I would just say contact them, take your snapshots, get that all set up so you can protect your ass.
That's
Yeah, protect that
or
ass.
assets, little asses.
Wait a second. I do want to say, does that say Titcoin behind you?
So it actually does. I make my backgrounds using Dolly usually, and I put in Bitcoin and it came out spelling Titcoin. I'm like, that's funny. I need to leave that.
Dude,
Thank you for
I don't
noticing.
know. That's a meme coin. I hear it's going to be huge.
That's
I'm a big fan of the Bajumblies.
what is the smallest unit of Titcoin? A bajumble?
It's an A.
A nipple.
It's a.
How many nipples you got? A bag of nipples.
It's a Niptoshi.
A nip toshi. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next week as we approach the time of the jolly fat guy. Nope, we're not talking about Travis, talking about Santa.
Hey, I'm not that jolly.
And you're not that fat anymore either. You're like you're svelting.
Every time you tell me that, I gain weight. So stop saying that.
Travis, you're
Historically,
looking,
be like, wow, Travis, you've lost some weight. And I don't know what happens. Immediately I get fat again. So stop.
you know what it is? It's like you're stressing out on the Chiefs because they're barely winning every game. They're barely
Dude, I just
winning.
laugh. I just got like, thank you for the black magic mojo. I don't stress it actually at all. I
What is
laugh
the
about
deal? I mean, they're not. Let's face it. They're not exactly what I would call Super Bowl material, but they're going to
Dude,
go.
they weren't last year either, dude. I think they're bored with the fucking regular season. I think it's like they kind of show up. And the thing is, our offensive line really kind of blows.
Yeah.
And so it's putting Mahomes in this. He's not able to get back in the pocket and actually have plays, pop out. And so that's the problem. But I think when it all turns into when the postseason happens, the next level of Chiefs turn on. It's what's happened every single postseason.
Mhm.
And guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to say, "Oh, the Chiefs suck, Chiefs suck," and then here they are again in the AFC Championship. Right? They've been in the AFC Championship 6 years in a row.
It's crazy.
Like the Chiefs have played 7 seasons of football in 6 years. When you consider all the playoff games,
Right.
literally they played a whole other season, and so they might be 12-1, and they might not be great right now, but 12-1 is pretty good. And I think they're gonna have the number 1 seed clinched in the next couple of weeks, and they're gonna have like 2 weeks of rest, and right, which could be a detriment to them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So I want your prediction. Who, if they go to the Super Bowl, we're assuming they will. Who are they going to be?
Well,
playing?
I think the Super Bowl really is probably going to be the Bills and the Lions, is what it could be.
Oh, you think so?
dude.
The Lions are
Allen
12-1 too.
on his plate. No, they're 10-3. They just lost again. They lost to the Rams yesterday. Or yesterday, not yesterday, the day before yesterday. But what was crazy was Josh Allen threw for 3 touchdowns and ran in 3 touchdowns. And the week before that, he threw a touchdown. He ran in a touchdown, and then he threw a pass, and then the dude lateraled it back to him, and then he ran it into the end zone. First person ever to catch a touchdown, throw a touchdown, and run a touchdown in the same
That's
game. So
crazy.
he literally threw a touchdown to himself on the record books.
That's amazing. So the
He's
Bills
got to be the MVP, him or Saquon Barkley, but this is all sports ball, and people don't tune
the
in.
The Bills and Steelers are 10-3, but the Lions are 12-1.
Lions are in the NFC, and they're great. And I mean, seriously, they deserve a fucking Super Bowl. They at least need to get to one. They've never been to one. So they at least need to get to one. And if they get to one versus the Chiefs, they'll probably throttle the Chiefs because the Chiefs' offensive line kind of sucks this year.
Get to the chopper. Where is the Super Bowl?
I think it's in New Orleans this year.
New Orleans. All right. Hey, that's enough sports ball talk because I don't even really care. But, you know, my KC compadre here and my KC girlfriend both do. So by virtue of that, I'm yay.
Wait a second. How
Chiefs.
did we were talking about Titcoin and Bajumblies, and then it turned into Chiefs football.
Yeah.
What kind of associations are you making?
I don't know, but that's how we get there. Thanks for
see you
listening,
guys
everybody.
next time.
Catch you next week. Go Chiefs. Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.